minus 10 minutes. Minus 9 minutes. Minus 8 minutes. Minus 7 minutes. Minus 6 minutes. minus 5 minutes. Minus for minutes. Minus 3 minutes. Minus 2 minutes. Minus 1 minute. T-minus 10 minutes. T-minus 9 minutes. T-minus 8 minutes. T-minus 7 minutes. minus 5 minutes. Minus for minutes. Minus 3 minutes. Minus 2 minutes. Minus 1 minute.
How about that?
Heyo! Hey now! Welcome to a Football Friday from a very special place, Western Dodge in Moose Jaw. Schultz, are you still watching Howard still listening to Howard Stern?
You know, I'm really down on Stern. Ever since the whole COVID thing, he really turned a corner.
We are letting the cat out of the bag here. It's television magic over the next 2 hours for sure, as much as Hall of Famer Scott Schultz wants to be with us. The number one overall pick of the 2001 CFL draft, former Pittsburgh Steeler, San Diego Charger, and of course a Rough Riders Hall of Famer on a game day here in the Wheat Province. Red alert, the Saskatchewan Rough Riders are taking on the Calgary Stampeders, and we're very excited about it. We're live at Western Dodge, one of our most prized sponsors of the ARP as we make our summer home here in Moose Jaw, and it's football talk. Jim Barker coming up in hour 2. But the old 96er, Scott Schultz, is with us. We would normally do the quick six show topics here. We're dispensing with all of that because it's just you and me. And for those that don't know, we did a radio show for, it was like 7 years, I think we did it, until life got in the way.
Yeah.
Until life got in the way.
Yeah, we grow, we move on.
Yeah, exactly. But we come back together, and here we are doing this show today with the old 96ers. So, hey, it's a game day. We're going to talk about all the CFL games, everybody. We had fans coast to coast, as you know, in Canada, and we're also airing in 32 U.S. states. But game day in Sask doesn't get much better.
Doesn't get much better. 7 p.m. kickoff. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and you're going, you said.
What's the weather going to do, though, I wonder? You know,
well, there's apps for this, Scott. It's not 1955.
You get into these dicey air quality control issues. I suspect they're not going to be a problem.
Here we go. See Lightning writes in. It says, Scott Schultz rocks.
Oh, boy.
Do you? Would your kids agree?
I do rock. I listen to a lot of Metallica, AC/DC, Pantera, and the like.
I got you. He's asking what the forecast will be for the football match tonight in Canada's football shrine, the football capital, as of 7 p.m. It says sunny and 22. What are you worried about?
Sunny and 22.
And sunny and 22 degrees Celsius.
I'm going to be in the AGT lounge, so it's always sunny and 22.
It doesn't matter for him. Yes, exactly.
A little warmer by the buffet, but
Wayne and Victoria. Yes, a little roast beef.
Au jus.
Yeah. So I'll tell you something. We had a sponsor. He's not with us anymore, and that's on him. Casino Regina. He said when you and I were doing the radio show back in the day, he couldn't get out of his car. He'd pull up at the end of the day, and Steve Tunison's his name. He goes, I have 1 foot in the driveway listening to you two idiots. He goes, it was radio gold.
It was. We had a great time. It was the early days of that show back there, though.
It was the first days.
We were. What do you call? What do you call that? We were prospecting. We were.
Yeah. Well, we did some. Road shows. We did Grey Cups. We did all kinds of
groundbreaking on. We did all kinds of outtakes.
John Ohm writes in from Winnipeg. He says, I'm loving Scott's music choices. I didn't know he was that much of a rocker. But this is the opening segment. It goes fast. We're just blowing people's minds that the old 96er Scott Schultz is here. But he's here for an hour, hopefully a little more if we can convince him.
Be great.
We should actually, because you're here and you made the trip back to your hometown, which they're all excited. Scott's coming back to Moose Jaw. They are, as you know. But you're running a business now. You're in the business of being in business.
Business of being in business, handling lots of farm and commercial insurance for Lakeview Insurance. It's a great opportunity. We've all over the province, and really excited to help out people with any questions.
We ask people to like, share, comment that are watching on streaming, and again, we're on Game Plus television across Canada, where there are a lot of CFL fans, everybody across Canada. But I'll say this, because we're here in Saskatchewan, we're wearing our rider gear. We both were under the employ of the green and white for years. What were you? 9 years.
Just about 9, yeah.
And won a championship in 2007. 20 seasons for me. Not that I'm trying to big time you or anything, but that's 29 seasons between the two of us here. This game tonight was voted Canada's Game of the Week by our viewers.
First place battle.
It is. Are these the two best teams in the CFL tonight, Calgary and Saskatchewan?
Right now, I'd say yes. I mean, you look at what Montreal's doing out east, but the thing is, you know how early is it? Like really till Labor Day, these games are, it's up now. We're great to be in the position of 4-0, but it's still early, like still super early. Like I wouldn't be, riding all the way to the Grey Cup on 4-0.
But they are here.
Oh, they always do. That's
exactly.
that's Riderville, right?
Yeah, but it's better this way.
Yes,
than the 0-4 and wanting to fire everybody.
Well, but the thing of it, but you look at how it's happened. I don't think it's been a fluky, we're in 4-0 and we've had some miraculous things happen. I think you're seeing this team build. You're seeing the consistency in the decision making, and you're seeing, when things happen, injuries to the O-line. Now look at how they've got the reserves to fill in and take care of business. So I'm really excited to see where things are going. But again, the old football player in me is just very cautious. 4-0 in an 18-game season. It doesn't. I don't put too much into it.
One game at a time, one play at a time, and that's how you are successful. I love that my Florida people have showed up to watch. Brent in Wellington, Florida writes in, who has no idea at all about why your nickname. He wore number 96, of course. Brent says, Scott, did you ever attempt a 96er? I can make it happen if you do it on air, and I'll throw in some hats and shirts for the kids.
Challenge accepted, but definitely I've never tried it. But I've been to a couple places where they've had a 72-ouncer. And I just if it's not 96, I'm not going.
Do you remember where those were? Canada or the U.S.?
It was U.S. It was in Lake of the Woods in Minnesota.
They know how to do the steaks down there. Okay. I'm just listening to producer Corey here in my ear as we're doing this live show, and it's working out great. It's a little different than what we normally do. Sea Lightning writes in, it says Scott Schultz should be on TSN.
I got a face for radio and a voice for silent movies, Rod. As you know.
It's television gold. We're actually going to maybe get serious over the next hour, but maybe not. Maybe. Why would we start now?
I suspect that there'll be a serious tone, but it's going to be fun.
Could get dicey. Yeah, and we'll talk about the other football games too. And I want you to think about this. You don't need to answer it here because we're going to break in a minute.
Gotcha.
But the gentleman here played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the San Diego Chargers, identifies as a Steeler alum. We'll get to some NFL talk here too. But 9 seasons with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And I wonder if, as I get out of this wonderful province and talk to guys that have played for a lot of teams, if you ever would have wanted to play for another team in the CFL. Don't answer just yet.
We'll come back to it.
Think about it. And a lot of that's hockey guys like Ryan Getzlaff's played his whole career in Anaheim. And he's like, kind of would have liked to have played in Canada. I'm like, what more do you need, Ryan? You got Olympic gold, Stanley Cup, all the rest, but you always want what you can't have. 902-518-3033 is the text line. It's for our friends here at Western Dodge, proud partners of the Rod Pedersen Show for the summer of 2025. We're loving our time in Moose Jaw. Scott's always told me how great it was, and I never believed him until I came here for myself, and now I don't want to leave. The old 96er and I will return for a much longer segment and get to more of your questions and comments.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB. Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are live at Western Dodge in Moose Jaw. Big city selection, but small town service. And I can attest to that. They've given me a Dodge Hornet to drive for the summer. I love it. Speaking of love this guy, the old 96er, Scott Schultz, with me. A Hall of Fame defensive tackle. Brett Taylor writes in, says, the young fella's looking lean and clean.
Oh,
there you go, Schultz.
Did you talk to my mother? Can I have a copy of that to give to my mother-in-law?
Yes. Pleasure trip, taking her to the airport.
Oh, that's the good one.
Okay, so we got a lot to go over. Stampeders, Rough Riders tonight. We're also, I don't know how much you're following the other games, as much CFL as I can. And thanks to those that have showed up, by the way, my U.S. friends that aren't the biggest CFL fans, we're just entertaining you. That doesn't, you don't need to necessarily learn anything. But do you wish you had ever played for another team in this great league?
I don't, because, coming from Moose Jaw, I was always the Riders are kind of my thing. When I got interested in football, I was a Bobby Jurison fan, Gerald Bayless. all the deals, right? And then, of course, when you get older, you start to see the landscape, and really, the Rough Riders, Riderville is the mecca of football. And I happened to be a good enough player that, my play was never in question. So I was never kind of on the trading block that I knew about. And I've always been of that, like, you've known me for years. I've said this, if by Edmonton, let's say, I would have tried to dig into Edmonton and be there for 10 years. Just like I was here. So that's kind of my mentality. But a lot of it, too, is out of your control. Like, if you're on the chopping block, if your play is suspect, you get moved around. It's tough. I never had that problem. Guys like Mikowski, O'Day, Husey, McCullough, those guys, it's great when you can be on a team for that long and stay grounded.
I want to get the questions from the viewers as much as we can while we have the old 96er here, a Hall of Famer. Reminds me a little of the Tony Gabriel show we did a couple weeks ago, which was our most viewed. Maybe this will be more viewed than that, but it was from Joe Dogs in Burlington, Ontario. By the way, did you have a chance to go to any other teams? Did you get close in free agency?
There was a couple times where, like, in negotiations with Roy, that they were playing hardball. Like, I wanted more money, and they didn't want to give it to me, kind of a thing. And you always kind of wanted to get your contract negotiated before your option year back in those days. And so there's 2 times I pushed it into my option year, and then I had performances that caused them to come to the table and give me what I wanted. So I was really happy.
You're lucky. Well, I don't think I ever told you. I had a chance to go to 2 other teams in the
kidding.
CFL. Edmonton was one and Hamilton was the other. And they couldn't figure out, I will never forget, in Hamilton they said, well, you're in Saskatchewan. You must be dying to get out of there.
Oh, come on.
And that just pissed me off.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is my home. You know what I mean? And if I'm going to be in the CFL, this is where you want to be.
Well,
Do you not know that?
It's the market.
So it is what it is. Now, here's another one, and I'll get to these questions as much as I can. On this game tonight, I was on the radio in Calgary earlier in the week, and they talked about the former Stampeders on the Riders. Ooh,
yeah.
Mike Rose and Micah Johnson. I said, what about Jake Mayer? He'll get on the field at some point, but he's not starting.
No.
And on the flip side, Derek Moncrief with the Stampeders. But in your day and up until your day, it was a big deal when you were playing your former team. But I feel like it's not anymore because the players move so much.
You know, I saw Tom Brady talking about this.
Serious?
And they're talking about like the friendships and the going out and the chumminess. And in his day, that didn't happen. It was, you know, he says in his 20-year career, he maybe went out to lunch with or dinner with Peyton Manning twice. Because it's the peak of competition. Like Rob Murphy and those guys from BC. I would never go for supper with those guys. I wouldn't even shake their hands because it was such a fight. It was so dirty. They were at, you know, and so I don't think it's a big deal. I think, you know, you should be tuned in and focused enough on the task at hand for the team that you're playing with that it really doesn't matter.
Right. but you don't look at it from the media story.
No,
you've
right.
never been a media person. But I'm just saying ooh,
yeah.
Derek Moncrief, former LA Ram linebacker, is facing the Riders, the team that let him go. It just doesn't seem like a big deal anymore.
No.
Those were big storylines back in the day.
Oh, yeah. There was all kinds of hurt feelings and what happened, and I'm going to do this, and there's proclamations made. Now everyone's just, it's all good. It's all good, and we're here to play, and it's not a big deal. I think it's a mistake. I think it's something that, you know, maybe the media could bite in a little bit and put a little more pizzazz on it.
Well, don't get me going about the media today. That's here or anywhere for that matter.
That's right.
Okay. John in Winnipeg I threw the line in the water and he answering the questions. He took the bait. Thank you. I want everybody to ask questions for this guy because I get tired of asking him questions. John in Winnipeg says, Scott, your favorite stadium to play in besides Taylor Field, NFL included?
Oh, none of them really. Like I was just a different bit of an animal because I didn't have over the top athletic ability. So my stuff was always locked in, attitude, focus, to get the job done. And so when I was going into another town, I never saw all the fancy bars and I never saw the restaurants. I saw, you know,
I handled that for you.
Roddy was taking that part of the business. But I saw, you know, different hotel rooms. I saw different stadiums, and that's it. It was hostile every time you went in and you tried to go in there and get a win. And, you know, like I can remember, you know, Hamilton, you know, they're throwing stuff at you. They're throwing Skittles. They're throwing batteries and goldfish. I mean, it gets rough.
Well, this is why the guy's in the Hall of Fame. It reminds me of an interview with Bret Hart I heard way back in the day. Somebody said, how does it feel going from Exhibition Stadium in Regina to Madison Square Garden in New York? And the excellence of execution said, I don't look past the first row.
Yep.
And that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter what the field. And John Ryan says the same. He incidentally will be in the Hall of Fame too. But what NFL stadiums were you in?
I played at Washington. I played in Detroit. I played in where else did I play? Miami, and I played in Pittsburgh and San Diego.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, but the thing of it there is when you get into a stadium in a situation like that, a preseason scenario, I mean, it's, you know, it's 50,000 in an 80,000 stadium. So it's kind of like a CFL game, you know, where when you look out. But Roddy, there was times I can remember in the mid 2000s playing in Toronto where there's 7,000 people in Sky Dome and you can hear a pigeon flutter past in the middle of a play. Woo, woo, you know, down.
See why this is broadcasting gold. It's broadcasting gold. But having said, so you played in Miami, which is my home now.
Oh yes.
So Andrew Green,
BDG,
Andrew Green played for the Dolphins, played for the Rough Riders, and he, I think, is in the Hall of Fame too. If he's not, he should be.
Oh, he's definitely he's in the big Hall of Fame.
But I asked him about playing with Marino because I'll tell you something. In South Florida, Dan Marino's name comes up every single day. Every day it comes up, just on the highways and byways and in the rest. He's the man.
Lancaster.
Yeah, there. Exactly. Right. And I said, "What was he like?" And he goes, "Well, you know the quarterback. He just." Right? You know how he would say it.
He's such a beauty, but
you know the quarterback. He's up here. He's up here.
The thing is with him, though, is like what you got to think about this guy is this guy told me to my face that he didn't think he was going to live past the age of 20 because, you know, he immigrated from Jamaica, had a really rough life.
Thought he'd get shot.
Well, just rough life.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that side of things, but he's a guy that football kind of saved his life. It really pulled him out of and gave him something to work for, makes it to the NFL, plays for Dan Marino as a rookie. Started for Dan Marino. So he was a pretty special character, and he's got some interesting insights. He coaches with it at the Green Old Griffins as well, so I get to peer in. It's pretty shocking.
How about that? Tony and Cochran, just enjoy the program. We have producers handling things here, but thank you for tuning in. Colt writes in. He's from San Diego, and he says, did you like playing at Jack Murphy Stadium, a.k.a. Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego?
Yep, Qualcomm was great. It was a little, when I was there, it was 2001, so it was a little bit, it wasn't in peak shape, but just to be in a pro locker room, in a pro stadium, it was unbelievable.
America's finest city. I mean, you named enough, and I've been to them all. I think San Diego is America's finest city.
Yeah, it's we got to spend some time up in La Jolla. That's where they had the training camp, so you can imagine. And it's a different world up there. We would just go and look at houses when we had some time off.
Well, it's funny because Craig Dickinson was with the Chargers when you were with the Chargers.
Absolutely, and his brother was a
quarterback,
special teams assistant.
Dave was?
Well, sorry, Dave was the quarterback.
I'm talking about Craig.
Craig was the special teams assistant.
Right.
Yeah.
But so I asked Dickie about coaching in the NFL, and he said just like he loves coaching anywhere, just like you like playing anywhere. But he said waking up in La Jolla and hearing those waves crash, hard to beat.
Hard to beat.
Hard to beat. Or downtown Regina where he lived. It's a toss-up. Wilf in Steinbach, Manitoba says, who was the toughest player you ever played against?
You know what? I'm not going to say it was the best player that I played against, but the toughest battles I ever had was against a guy named Dan Komuski. And Kami was a guy that, in my early career, he was with the Riders, so I had knowledge, but I played against him mostly. He was with the Edmonton Eskimos, and just his size and ability just matched up with what my skill set. And so every time I lined up against Dan, it was just an unbelievable battle. The intensity was always up, and I can say on my career probably about 50-50 against him.
Well, we had Kami here just before your time
in
Saskatchewan. I'll never forget doing a show just like this from the Teachers Club. Do you remember that?
Oh,
yeah. So it was when we were awful in 1999. And folks that don't know, you're all watching from across Canada and the USA. This is Alabama. Once I got outside and looked back in, I'm like, it's pretty cool. Like, it's the football team is the biggest thing, right? And it's to get the farmers doing their thing, and they love the team, and they get off their tractor, and they come in for the games. But we were 3-15 that year. Absolutely awful. And I had Kami on taking calls.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't happy, the fans. And Kami, we went to a commercial, and he's just purple. He's just fuming. He's like, I'd like to see you get off the tractor and come in and try and block Joe Montford. You know what I mean?
Joe Montford. That was a blast with a pass.
Yeah, just what
I
I'm
love
saying.
it.
So here's a story that Schultz likes to tell at the banquets. And how many have we done?
Oh, hundreds.
Yeah.
Thousands.
Fake Gainer writes in, who goes now by Brother Sasko.
Sure.
He says, hi, Reverend Rod. Did you know that I'm an ordained minister now? You probably didn't know that.
Are you really?
True story. Yep. From the Universal Life Church.
Sweet Jesus.
Yes. You all need Jesus.
Blessings.
He says, what's the better halftime show? Grey Cup 2013, Flying Skidoos.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And what was the band? The lead singer's in jail now.
Oh.
Cha-ching.
I can't
they didn't even play his music anymore. They got canceled. Anyways, the Flying Skidoos at that halftime. Or the Little Rider Cheerleader Day with kids dancing around he says dead. Yeah, yes. Lifeless Spurgeon wins.
Yes.
I will give you time to tell the whole story.
Well, that was just a great experience. And like I can remember we were playing Toronto that game. And it was in 2006. It was before Ken Austin had come back. And, typical Toronto, they had the Austin Air Force. They're airing it out. They're up going into the half. They're up at least a score. All they would have to do is kneel down. Well, of course, they drop back. Well, I bust through and come flying upfield. Fred Perry had him contained, so he's not looking at me. He's looking at fearful Fred Perry. Well, I blindside Spurgeon win, and his helmet goes flying, break his jaw, drive him into the turf. I get up, big celebration, crowd goes nuts, and then time runs out. And you look back, and Spurgeon's down. He's hurt. Well, here comes the ambulance crew out to get him. And then the halftime started, and it was the mini cheerleaders, and it was their time to come in and have their opportunity, to show off their skills, and they would not be denied. And so they just kind of formulated around his lifeless little body and did their deal. And the medical crew, scooped him up and got the guy out of there.
Spurgeon win. Why did I think it was BC? Didn't you knock out Dave Dickinson in a similar fashion?
That's how we got introduced to Buck Pierce. So me and my good friend Nate Davis playing against BC Lions. Wade Davis. And first quarter, Nate Davis gets in the game. It was me. I knocked out Dave Dickinson in the first quarter with a quarterback sack. Got there. It was awesome. Second quarter, right before half, Nate gets through and hits Casey Printers, puts him into the dirt. And so we're celebrating. I mean, the two best quarterbacks in the league in the last decade. We're happy. Here comes third quarter, Buck Pierce, and lights us up.
I think we're going to a break. 1 second.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult, because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
The CARM criteria of Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, here we go. And we're back on the air.
Hey,
We're on autopilot today, which is good. So the old 96er, Scott Schultz, is with us, Rough Riders Hall of Famer, and we'll be taking some questions. They have personal stories they would like you to address of theirs, and questions about tonight's game. Calgary Stampeders at the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. I should tell you, number one, Arlen Bruce III has chimed in. You know AB. You
played against him. He's a beast.
He says, great morning, RP. Great show as always. I think Vernon Adams and Nathan Rourke will have big games. Nathan Rourke, of course, not playing tonight. He's talking about Sunday's game, BC at Edmonton. But it's our poll question today for EMJ Marketing, everybody. Who will have more passing yards in this game just down the road at Mosaic Stadium tonight? The Calgary Stampeders' Vernon Adams Jr. or Saskatchewan's Trevor Harris? You want to get serious for a second and address that question?
Well, Harris is coming in. I think I read somewhere. I think at 72% completion rate, but he's missed a game, right? So, and then you got the bye week. So I think there could be a little bit of I don't know, not stalled, but just working things out in the first quarter. But the way the Riders have been playing and getting it done, I really think that Harris is going to throw for more yards than Adams.
I'll tell you what, though, as far as this game goes, and I'm dying to get back to the other viewer questions, but this is everything you want. The two best teams in the league, healthy marquee quarterback names, Trevor Harris versus Vernon Adams. Friday Night Football, it's everything you want.
Both defenses are playing good. Both have good running games. Like it's anything that you can want in a ball game.
Regarding him knocking Spurgeon win into next week, B. Mans writes and he says, wasn't that the same game Ricky Williams played in Regina? Played and
broke his arm. Mike McCullough had a great tackle, shoestringed him up, pulled him down, and as Ricky being an athlete and a competitor, he's trying to fight for extra yards, and he posted out on his arm and snapped his forearm.
Never played again, I don't think.
No, Mike McCullough ended his career.
Well, I'll tell you what, you were talking about this show now. Ricky Williams has been on this show.
No kidding.
What do you think about Ricky Williams? When you hear that, what do you think of him?
I just think he was a supreme football player and athlete. The pressures of big time college football and all that in a day where there was no NIL and there was real pressures and there was underhandedness going on and influence, his lifestyle with cannabis and all the rest of it at a time where it didn't really fit the national story. So I got a lot of respect for him.
He's a trailblazer in a lot of ways.
Oh, 100%.
He is a good guy. Gotten to know him in Florida. And apparently I should be very honored that he was on this show because he doesn't do many shows. So you and him, that's what you have in common. B. Mans writes and he says, Schultz, what was your welcome to the NFL moment, either on field or off? I know what it is.
Well,
I know one of them anyway.
Well, I'm going to tell the story, and it was number one draft pick, get cut from San Diego, come back. Going to get announced with Demetrius Maxey that we're coming back from NFL cuts and we're going to be on the same team with the Riders September 11th. And so 10 o'clock, no press conference. Everything, the whole world gets shaken up. Our game is recently like a Tuesday in Calgary. We're playing, and of course, I'm a young guy hopping at the bit to get in, and I didn't get in till I think the third or fourth quarter, probably fourth quarter. And I remember it like yesterday. I'm coming up the field. I'm in the mix on some plays, and then Davin Bush picks off a play, a pass, takes it 60, 70 yards for a touchdown. And everyone's going crazy, nuts. They're celebrating, exciting. And I look back, and there's our defensive end, Shante Peoples, one of the best defensive ends in the league.
He was down.
He's screaming at the ref. He's down. He was down. And at that point in the CFL, it was a sack or it was
couldn't be both.
Fumble. Excuse me. It
wasn't fumble.
Yeah, it wasn't a pick by Davin Bush. He scooped up the forced fumble. Excuse me. Too many hits to the head, Roddy. So Shante gets the sack, forces the fumble. Davin picks it up 60 yards for a touchdown. Shante is complaining that he was down because he wants the bonus he gets for sacks. And that was my welcome to the CFL. I couldn't believe that this is what we're doing.
And I must have read it wrong. But his question was welcome to the NFL moment, and it was
okay.
It involves Doug Flutie.
Well,
that was yours.
Absolutely. So Doug Flutie was a huge CFL influence. Watched him growing up. He made his bones in the CFL, gets back in the NFL. So I'm in there in training camp, and I can remember I broke through somehow, and I'm chasing Doug Flutie as fast as I can to the sideline. He one hops it about, I don't know, a good 35, 40 yards downfield to LaDainian Tomlinson, one-hander, goes for a touchdown. And I couldn't believe it because I had done everything perfectly. I had chased him over, and I'm getting closer, and it was just a huge, huge play.
You're one of a long line of D linemen left in the dust by Doug Flutie.
Oh, yeah.
Arlen Bruce III has a question. He says, RP, do you think there should be a salary cap in NCAA football? And I'm going to say for the moment, no. But AB, you're from Kansas, just outside Kansas City. Or so I guess you're from Missouri, just outside Kansas City. And so America is so different than Canada. And you married an American, so you get it.
No.
I wasn't down there very long before somebody said to me, it's America, Rod, money matters. So the idea of a salary cap in college football, I don't think that will even happen.
Yeah, no. If you compare how things used to be, like I almost got in trouble back in the day in the NCAA Division II for taking shoes, from a booster. And then you're talking about guys that got actual money versus the millions of dollars that's going on now. It's not equal. It's not distributed evenly. So there's the ups and the downs. So right now there's got to be some reform, but yeah, salary cap isn't it. They've got to figure it out. It's basically, the sports that matter down there. It with their TV deals, it's professional sports, incognito as it is. So they got to figure that out and just get everything out in the open.
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. A salary cap isn't the answer. It is screwed up. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
But something needs to be done because I don't want to name the school because I do work with them, but they've basically said we're a school. We're not a pro football team.
Right.
Like we're out on the NIL thing. We can't compete with other teams in our conference.
No.
So the gap is more than ever, right? And so why would you go to a crappy school if you're not being paid? Like it's pro football now, and that's why AB says there should be a cap.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. And to say that's a cap, it's just you have to take it slow, guys, because remember, there's always these unintended consequences. If you just cap, someone's going to be affected. And nobody knows right now. And that's the thing is, I think we just need to get some people involved that understand how this could work. And go from there.
You know who's in charge of it. Donald Trump and Nick Saban say they're going to fix college football.
Oh, man, I can't wait.
Great.
Hold on to your chair.
Yeah, exactly. Glenn is watching in Medicine Hat. He says, 2007 Grey Cup champions. Thank God for James Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
There should be a statue of that guy in front of the stadium for what he did that day.
Dude. And that's the thing. It's just, he was a great player for a number of years, but it's those guys that show up in big games that make big things happen. That's the story. That's one of the stories of how we won.
You tell me, producer Corey, when we are close to a break, if you can, and we'll get everything figured out here. Jim Barker coming up in hour 2 as we talk about week 6 and preview it. C Lightning writes in and says, can you tell the story of almost going to Penn State? Your call with Joe Pa.
Oh, yeah. Right now?
Yeah. So, I think we have time.
Yeah. So in high school, I was one of the first kids in Saskatchewan that was really doing the college, fine thing. And, we had 600-700, VHS tapes that you would mail to these schools. Anyways, we're getting all these responses. I mean, I talked to Stanford, I talked to Wake Forest, and here it comes Penn State. And, previously I had gone to many, 3 or 4 high school football camps at North Dakota. And so they knew what they had, and I had no idea what the NCAA was all about. And they were Division II, but they liked me and I liked them, and they sweet talked me, and they had offered me a scholarship, and I was happy to go there. Didn't have to pay for school and all the rest of it. Well, Joe Paterno gets me on the phone, and he wants to bring me and my dad down for a visit, see the campus.
Timbo,
the old Timmer. And so I had to say, I said, Mr. Paterno, I really appreciate that, but I have to tell you that I've already signed a letter of intent with UND. And he immediately goes, well, listen, it's, it would be great to have you down there, but we understand. And you're going to enjoy your time at Notre Dame. And, they play nationally. It's on national TV. It should be a good experience for you. I said, oh, no. I didn't sign with Notre Dame. I signed with the University of North Dakota. And there was just silence on the phone. And then there was just good luck with that, son. And then he hung up.
I'm sorry, what? What did you say? You're going to North Dakota.
Yeah.
Instead of Happy Valley. Okay. So there you go.
That was the story.
Arlen Bruce III checks in. He says, Ricky Williams wore Crocs every day.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB. Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Oh, we're on. How about that? Corey, are you there? Are you trying to talk to me? Either way, we're fine. We're back on the air. It's a Football Friday. The old 96er, Scott Schultz, is with me. And yeah, you might have to hold that, as you say. But 902-518-3033, the number to reach us here. We're live at Western Dodge in Moose Jaw, having a big time, and we're getting ready for the big football game tonight, the Calgary Stampeders at the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 7 p.m. at Mosaic Stadium. And we're taking questions from the viewers, as we always do. Laverne in Swift Current writes in, and they're all good. They're good questions. He says, Laverne says, "Hey, Scott, how did you get the nickname Mr. Soundbite?" Which, by the way, that's the first time I've ever heard you called Mr. Soundbite, but it fits.
I think it was just, I like to talk to people, and I'm just very much, hard on a sleeve kind of guy. So when things would go tough, and they obviously, they did a lot. Things got tough during the Rider seasons. We had those 9-9 seasons and those kind of things. No one would want to talk to the media, so they would just shove me out there because I'll talk to you guys. And that's how we got to be really good friends. We just, I was getting all these interviews, and
I was the one doing them.
You're the one doing them, and so I'm just always open and willing to talk, and that's just part of the job of being a Rough Rider when you're from the home province.
I don't hear you, Corey, so don't. I have not heard one cue. So something on it, but I have not heard one. Anyways. But as Mr. Soundbite, I guess that makes sense. But so we were talking about Luke Wilson in the break, and I said, what do you think about this Luke Wilson, the CFL on TSN guy Friday nights? Yeah. And you're casually following it. You're a father of 4. You're running a multi-million-dollar business. My point is, he's now Mr. Soundbite. He's saying the controversial things. Somebody wrote in here earlier and brought up the fat and sassy pigs comment. So explain to our millions of viewers what that means, the fat and sassy pigs comment, and then And if you regret it.
I don't regret it.
Okay, tell everybody what it was.
So back in the days when CBC used to broadcast games, we were playing against BC, and I was a young kid, and a sequence had happened where I got a tackle for loss and a sack, like back to back. So then we're off the field, and in the old days, they'd stick a camera right in the guy's face, right on the bench. So of course, they stick a camera in my face. I don't say hi, mom, or hey, grandma. I look into the camera and I called the entire starting offensive line a bunch of fat and sassy pigs, and they didn't have anything for us out there, and so it spurred a big a big hoopla and all the rest of it.
Okay, right. So fat. Wouldn't you say what was the exact quote? You're like, they got nothing.
I said they got nothing for us out there. I said they're a bunch of fat and sassy pigs out there.
And you were a rookie.
I was a rookie. But hey, when you're shining,
ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to say that we're old. I hate to inform you of this. That was 24 years ago.
I'm 47 this year, Roddy.
I know. So I always seem so much older and more mature.
Yeah.
So my point is, not do you regret it, but I mean, you've known me a long time. I'd like to think you've seen the change, and I say, I've when I was in Calgary for all this time a few years ago, that Bo Levi Mitchell "shut your mouth" quote come up every day.
Yeah.
And I kind of look back and go, that's not really what I want to be remembered for.
No.
So that's why I ask if you regret the fat and sassy pigs.
It was more of a teachable moment because, when you're in the throes of that and it's a soundbite, and in those days there wasn't social media and all that stuff. So it's real media sound bites and going back and forth. And so I just kind of learned that there's a way to do things. You can have fun and do it. And then, later in my career, I used to do the old moose jaw stomp when I get a sack. And that was more of a celebration with my teammates, with my line mates. And that, that's a little different than when you're focusing in and calling people out and trying to be hyperbolic.
Explain the moose jaw stomp without getting up and doing it. How would you describe the moose jaw
Well,
stomp?
really, it's just a version of the A-Town stomp, from Atlanta. And, all the fellas on my team, we have a lot of Americans from a certain part of the country. And, they were doing the A-Town stomp. And so one time, during a practice, Omar Morgan is watching tape. And he's, what the hell is Schultz doing over there? And I guess it was in between tapes, and he sees me over on the side, and I'm doing the A-Town stomp. So they're making fun of me. And I said, you know what? My next sack, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to call it the moose jaw stomp. And then I did it, and it just took off from there.
So the thing is, and that's the thing people bring up all the time is the moose jaw stomp. You can see the guy's a character. It's a shame, really, that you're not on the air anywhere anymore because your personality is being wasted behind a desk selling insurance. That's just me. I'm sorry I said it. But, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you feel as honored as I do to have a Hall of Famer with us here today and a good friend. So you're doing your thing. Remember the night in Winnipeg? You sacks Kahari Jones and then lifts his leg over like he's peeing on him.
Oh, yeah.
There's nobody doing that, not just in the CFL, even in the NFL. Where's the personality? Why is it gone?
I think they're legislating physicality out of the game. They're trying to legislate personality out of the game. Everything's kind of being sanitized, and I don't like it. I like the ability that you can go out there and have fun. The biggest lure of football to me was you can go out there and be as physical as you want to be and not get in trouble. And if you play within the rules that are set out, you could go out and get every bit of excitement and energy out of you in that game. And you're just not seeing it these days.
Something's changed, and I guess as I quite often say, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened, but gosh darn was it fun.
Oh, man.
Right.
I just think of the stories and the situations over the years. But you can't – half the things that are done in today's game or the game that I came from, you couldn't even approach doing. I don't even know how you could hit a quarterback these days. And then – you got guys like this Luke fella calling it all out, and
and back to the Luke Wilson thing. We'll get to that in a second. Right, we're just rolling with the comments. And by the way, the text line is open 902-518-3033. It's brought to you by Western Dodge. We're broadcasting live from Western Dodge. If you notice a change to what we're doing here today, and it's fantastic. And Moose Schultz made the over. Hometown of Moose on the Roy Shivers, Danny Barrett era, but man, They brought some swagger back to the Riders. Guys like Schultz were the reason. C. Lightning writes in and says, I remember a big kid bussing tables at Moose Jaw's Bonanza restaurant.
Yeah. Mushroom Swiss burger.
We were regulars there. What about the chicken Monterey?
Oh, that's the one. The Canalita dressing.
Yes, you can make it for yourself, but you don't make it for yourself.
No, it's never as good. It never is. It's never as good.
It's unbelievable. The Bonanza went out of business. It's sad. Just back to this for a sec. John Ryan was on here a couple weeks ago. Well, it's a pretty big deal for us and for anybody from Saskatchewan, not just us in the media, to have guys from Saskatchewan make it all the way to the National Football League. You did it. John Ryan's done it. And John came on here to defend Luke Wilson in a way. And I said to John, can you imagine being a pro player, an NFL player now in the social media age? Ooh. Not just the crap that's flying around and the hatred and, the pussies that come, call you out, anonymously, but just the fake news.
Yeah. I would have been in big trouble because you just think of your mentality too. I mean, it would have been so antagonistic because you would have just fought back on all these things, and
you would have
been canceled. Canceled. I wouldn't even be here right
Darian
now.
Durant did, and you got fined. Remember the 2013 season? You were done by then.
Yeah. I mean, and that's 2013. Like that's 12 years ago. I mean, yeah, it's brutal. But the thing of it is what I never understood, and I think that you did a good job of this, is when you're working for a team or an organization or a league, it's not your job. It just seems everyone wants to throw dirt and cause a sexy scandal. Your job is to put the best light on that team. Like that's the league is paying you for that. The league isn't paying you to talk and tear us down. It's to, okay, let's have some constructive criticism, or let's try to uplift what's going on instead of just anyone can just call it out.
So is that what you're talking about with Luke Wilson?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I'll be honest, and that's why people are tuned into this show. Where it changed for me, and I saw it with the Rough Riders, not so much as the hockey team, but they're getting up in my face saying, you're making us look bad. And I'm like, no, you're making you look bad. Mm-hmm. When you crap in your own front yard, I can't do anything about that. But that's how the regime changed. Let's put it this way. Jim Hobson would have never have said that.
Yeah. But
it's changed in sports now. It's like even when we're bad, you got to make us look good.
Yeah.
Well, I can't when you're that bad.
Well, exactly. And so that's kind of, and I'm not trying to, don't get me wrong out there. I'm not trying to say that, we should whitewash it and cover for, but there's a certain way to do it. And I don't think that Luke Wilson's doing it in a way that's overly helpful. I think he's doing it to get the story, to get the views, push a narrative.
I'm just, ladies and gentlemen, with the hand signals, I'm going back and forth with producer Corey in my ear, so we're good. We got one more segment with you. Can you believe how fast it's gone?
Oh, my Lord.
Is there anything that you want to get off your chest in the next segment? Think about it in the break, okay?
I'll think about it, but I'm open to anything.
Okay. Yeah. The CFL on TSN's Jim Barker is coming up in hour 2. 5-time Grey Cup champion. I should tell you that the text line is open for Western Dodge as always, 902-518-3033. If you have questions for the esteemed Hall of Famer in our presence today, the old 96er, Scott Anthony Schultz. Tony from Cochrane, Alberta. The Stamps fans are writing in about Fred Childress, and he says, Big Chill is back coaching now with the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Nice.
Was he the toughest old lineman to go against? Because you were an inside guy and he was a guard.
There's a lot of mystique about him. Like, can we talk about it, or are we going into?
We got 40 seconds.
He was a guy that there was so much mystique, so much circumstance around him. Like he was mythic. Like you go against him, and he was big and fat and slow and all the rest of it. But you
couldn't get around him.
He would block everybody. Doesn't matter if you're me, Nate Davis, Dave Benefield. He could solve any
Just
puzzle.
a big man.
Yeah.
We'll be back after this top hour break. We're live from Western Dodge and Moose Jaw. We're so happy that they've got us out here today. New or used, Western Dodge has your next vehicle ready to roll. Visit the dealership or browse 24/7 at westerndodge.ca. We'll be right back.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult, because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now. Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors. There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life. Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Welcome back, everybody. It's hour 2 of the RP Show, a very special Football Friday coming at you live here from Western Dodge in Moose Jaw. Don't just shop anywhere. Shop smart at Western Dodge, proudly serving Moose Jaw and beyond. We have Moose Jaw, one of Moose Jaw's favorite sons, because there are a few others, right? Clark Gillies, Dougie Smale, Eddie Stanowski.
Justin Abdu.
Who's that?
He's one of our only wrestling Olympians.
Okay, well, there you go. So, Saskatchewan Roughriders Hall of Famer, number 1 overall pick in the CFL, and a former San Diego Charger and Pittsburgh Steeler, which we should talk some NFL here, and we have some exciting things coming down the pipe in the States I'm going to tell you about before you take off.
Yeah.
But we're previewing tonight's Saskatchewan Roughriders Calgary Stampeders game as much as we can. I mean, we're just excited about the game. There are 2 other games, though, in the CFL, and we're on national television across Canada and 32 U.S. states. So just for their benefit, the other games are Saturday, Ottawa at Hamilton, and Sunday, BC at Edmonton. You're a busy guy. You're coaching high school football. You got 4 kids. How much of the other games are you paying attention to or watching?
I tell you what, I'm only looking for scores unless there's a story, unless there's a 2-minute drill that happened that was exciting. I'm looking for scores. I'm so busy. I'm so busy with family and kids. But that I think that's pretty typical for Saskatchewan.
For the fans?
Yeah.
Well, plus it's summertime, right? People are out doing their thing.
Oh, yeah.
They're not watching all the football. I am, but I'm old and boring. I'm that guy now.
That's right.
El Sasko writes in, he says, Reverend Rod and Schultz,
oh, yes.
Does the 2007 Thunder Bowl at the old Taylor Field ranked near the top of your favorite Rough Riders games ever. What a night. Still remember Scott celebrating by punting the pea out of the football after a big play. Bananas. For those that don't know, we had a power outage storm August 2007 at Taylor Field. The Edmonton Eskimos at the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. And why I know it was a 59-minute delay, I had to fill the airtime. And they were evacuating the stadium. And a lot of fans wouldn't leave, right? And then, lo and behold, the power comes back on,
dude.
And we finished the game.
It was the best thing ever. I remember Mike Maurer was the center, and they put me and John Chick right over Maurer. And he's little, like he's only like 220. So me and Chick bull rush him right back into the punter. And somehow I got my big fat arm up, hit the ball, scooped it. And then, of course, I go over to the sideline. Like I'm still on the field and I punted into the crowd. Well, Ken Austin almost ripped my head off. He's like, "You do not do that. We could have got a penalty." And I'm like, "Well, coach, we didn't." and he's like, "That's all right. That's all right." So then, that was that. But I got a great picture of that coming off, holding the ball. It was great.
Ken Austin, let's spend a minute and talk about Kent Austin.
Yes.
We all love him. He's not in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, but he will be. I feel that he will be before he dies. I think some people have to die before that happens. But he, of course, a gun.
I lost touch following his career in college, but I mean, for a 1 year, 12-6 record in and out. I've said this many times that for that 1 year, I never saw him take one misstep. He never misspoke. In fact,
no, he didn't.
I sent Jeremy O'Day a clip last night at about 12 in the 12 a.m. From one of the clips that Kent showed us going into that season. So he did a fantastic job for when he was a coach in 2007. And that's my experience with him.
For those that just tuned in here on Game Plus TV across Canada, Scott Anthony Schultz is with us. Scott Schultz, the old 96er, 9 seasons in the CFL, Grey Cup champion, and NFL alum with the Chargers and the Steelers. Blair in Calgary writes in on the Western Dodge text line. He says, "Hey, Rod, since you have a big guy who played on the line, the hardest part of the game for the big guys is the time clock. In 2009, I watched a game with Ben Zambiazzi. I was wearing a 68 Ticats jersey with the name Randall on the back. He asked if I knew who. Can you get to the point?" Oh, just saying they couldn't handle the 20-second play clock. Did you have a problem with that?
Oh, you're sucking air from your butt. That's for sure. I mean, when I noticed coming from college and then the NFL time clock and then coming to the CFL, the pace is just, that's what got you. And so I can, all the guys that come back from the NFL, they will find themselves doing gassers to try to get their conditioning down because of how the CFL time clock works.
It should be twice as fast because the play clock is half as much.
It's wild.
Right? Yeah. Bomber Boy is watching in Calgary regarding you. Did you kick the ball into the crowd? I can't remember.
Total punt. Yeah. It was like 60 yarders.
He says $500 fine for kicking or throwing the ball into the crowd these days. Do you remember what it was then?
No idea. But I'm sure the Riders would have paid for it. Or not.
But you were fined, were you not? They were taking up a collection for you. Was that the Spurgeon win hit?
Well, two though. I got threatened with the Spurgeon win hit. They actually did take the money out of my. It was a $1,500 fine, but I think we raised like $2,700 with the radio station, and we presented a big rubber check to Mike McCullough, and they presented it to his son's charity. But other than that, I don't know.
You can't remember? Yeah.
I can't remember.
So a few moments left here with Scott Schultz, and then we're going to let him go. And Jim Barker will be coming in, 5-time Grey Cup champion from the CFL on TSN. Well, there's one technical question for you before I get to some NFL stuff. Sea Lightning says, Scott, what do you think of an 8 to 9 defensive lineman rotation?
Well, if you're playing a 3, you need 7. You need 7, and then you need some depth. But to rotate that many guys, like depending on if you've got 4 down or 3 down linemen, if you need double. But at the same time, it just goes on flow because a lot of the time it's field position. They're going to rotate. If it's a long drive, you got to rotate guys out and get them back in when get your starters back in fresh if they're getting down on you. So yeah, to me at 7 is kind of what you need, because and then you need some stout backups.
We got about not even 10 minutes left with Scott, so if you have some questions, fire them our way. I've enjoyed the ones that we've had, particularly Arlen's about should there be a salary cap in college football. You're going to have me thinking about that for a while, but I don't think it's coming. Salary caps are not the American way. They're not. Right?
They're not. No.
So in college football, there's nothing more American than college football.
Right.
But in terms of the stories and D-line rotation, one of my favorites of your stories is the Marcus Adams code word or keyword. Yeah. Would you mind telling that story?
Well, so we're in the Grey Cup, and all year, we had certain words or cues that we would use for running a stunt up front. And we had the autonomy from our coaches to do that. Swamp Dog, Ron Este, 6-time Grey Cup champion, allowed us to do that. And so, if I was going to penetrate first on a stunt, I would say a food, because I was the big chubby guy. And Chunky, although Chunky, he's a black guy, he would say, I'll say a color and I'll go first. So we get there, and we got Ryan Dimwitty, he's going through the cadence, blue 32, blue 32. And then I look over, or Chunk looks over, and he says, orange, orange, orange. And so I freeze, and then set hut, and we get, they blast us off the ball. They end up running a draw right up the middle. And we get to the sideline. I'm like, Chunk, what the hell? What's going on, man? He said, I said orange, orange, orange. And I said, yeah, well, orange is a color and a fruit.
And a food.
And a food. And so we just started laughing. But that's totally some of the mishaps. Like, those are some of the goofiest things that happen. It's not some big play that you make. It's those funny interactions.
So our guy Marcus Adams we're talking about from Eastern Kentucky,
Chunko.
He went and played arena football briefly after his CFL career. And I wonder for you, looking back at all you guys' colorful careers, you played at UND and had the Hall of Fame career with the Rough Riders and a cup of coffee and a Danish in the NFL. Would you change anything?
The only thing that I tell this to kids all the time too, is like, the only thing that I would have changed that I think, that maybe would help is just diet, getting real serious about diet, and then flexibility for injuries.
Really?
And that's really it, because if you're passionate and sensed about something and you're going after a goal, it's just doing the work, and a lot of the time, there's only a few things that really affect, and really it's consistency. So if you can be consistent, but when you sit back and you start thinking, I wish I would have done this, wish I would have done that, I wouldn't have changed anything except for those two things.
Well, I asked that because you had your choice of where to go to college.
Yeah.
But you got your wife out of that, and great UND memories. Because with Matt Dunnigan, we've talked about his concussions,
Sure.
And I said, would you change anything, Matt? And he's like, not a thing.
No. And that's the thing. Like, I could have went to it. Like, that's the other thing. Like, I had a lot of opportunities to go to a lot of big time D1 schools, but I think it would have changed, where I would have wound up, because those D1 schools, the competition's better. Not to say that I wouldn't have been able to compete, but a lot of times it's very, very common. You don't start till you're a junior or a senior, most times senior, unless you're an oddity. And so I ended up playing at UND. I started 4 straight seasons. I started in high school. So I had a lot of experience aiding me into the transition into a pro game.
Yeah, well, and so before we went to air, not to divulge anything, and I hope you don't mind me saying, the narrative isn't across the CFL. And you said, like a lot of people say, the CFL is in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is the NFL. Flip it. Is there anything they could do wrong from what you see?
No, I think the exposure and the television, and then now you layer on top of it, gambling is off and running these last 5 years now. Yeah, it's just a money making machine, and I think they're the things that they are doing wrong, and I think they're slowly correcting, because I just think there's a sea change in perception in the United States. But they're walking back some of the DEI stuff. They're walking back some of these forceful representations of groups that people are. I like the hockey guys. I like what hockey's doing. Hey, we represent what we want to represent, and no one's forced to do anything.
Well, I think that's the point with the NFL is they're too big to fail.
Yeah.
So they tried some DEI stuff. It didn't really work, yet it didn't bring them down. I mean, nobody stopped.
Yep.
I think the ratings did dip for a while, though.
It did, but it's one of those things where it's like, let's move on, and they're just kind of slowly moving. They're not denouncing, they're not repenting, they're just slowly pivoting, and they'll do what they do. I mean, it's a juggernaut.
Well, that's the one thing I see with the NFL and the NHL. Listen, in my mind, you said you like what they do with the guys supporting their own movements, not a league-wide thing. It's if they do try something and they get blowback, they're above it. They don't freak out about it. Whereas the CFL tends to. You know, they get so upset.
Everything is so hyperbolic and everything is so of the now.
Yeah. Well, so what about the lack of returns? Like, here's the thing that we have. Like, I don't think Luke Wilson likes being challenged on anything he says. And as I've said,
tight end we don't even have tight ends in CFL.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, the closest was the Claremonts and the Fantuses, right? But if we needed a tight end in a formation, you go get in there.
Yeah.
But my point on what was my point on that? I'm not totally sure what my point was on that, other than the CFL, we've had 4 kick return touchdowns this year already. 4 kickoff return touchdowns. There was 3 all of last year. The NFL has none because they don't return kicks. Yeah. Like, I don't know how anybody could say that the return game isn't a return game in the NFL.
Nothing's
it's not as exciting.
That's what they're saying. Like he's saying, the thing that kicked it all off was the sequence of events that led to the fan excitement, but the game, it was mistakes and it was bad plays that allowed. But that's the problem. If you could sum it up, the pressure cooker is those 2 freaking minutes in the stop clock, and the pressure and the excitement, the allure, everything about the CFL game can be boiled down into those 2 minutes and what happens. And then you see there's some bums. All these highfalutin coaches make bad decisions when the pressure's on, and that's what's exciting for the fanship.
Yeah, well, and that's what I still don't understand what he was getting at. Because I was at the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. I think it was 56 or 57, going overtime. And Kyle Shanahan forgets, I fully believe this was the case, that the OT rules are different in the playoffs than they are in the regular season. So it's not just a CFL coach thing. It's a coach thing.
It is. And so, again, tight end, had a great experience, did some awesome things, but his football experience is highly specific. And, nothing wrong with bringing it back to the CFL, but you got to, like I said earlier, you just got to be able to, read the tea leaves. And it's not about putting something down. It's about understanding the perspective from the fans. That is all types of excitement. We understand from the football perspective, there was some bad football being played that caused those plays, but the inverse is the excitement generated, and because it's a duality of your team and the other team.
It's also been the CFL for 100 years.
Exactly.
That's what we love about it.
It's exciting.
Well, and that's, by the way, I don't know, I was gone when, I don't know if you recall, Pat McAfee and I got into it because he called it State Fair football. Me, Joe CFL little man syndrome, I went after him on that. And he's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I like state fairs. You got it wrong.
It's a fact.
He wasn't
wrong. We're not taking down state fairs now.
That he's just saying it. Now that I look at it that way, that maybe is a compliment.
Yep. Well, and listen, I don't want to start anything, but you get into these philosophical discussions, and I've definitely heard it throughout there. There is a model that is successful for the CFL. The current model is, I think, I'm not saying it's not successful, because obviously it's still going, but it's just, you can see the stress marks, you can see the fractures. And I think that, some good leadership and some introspection, I think they can figure things out going forward.
Thanks for coming down, Schultz Talk.
Always a pleasure.
Now I can shake your hands and you don't wince anymore.
Yeah.
They used to be hurting all the time.
They used to be tied in knots.
Jim Barker from the CFL on TSN is coming in next. Get your CFL questions in. What a treat it's been to have here at Western Dodge and Moose Jaw in his hometown, Scott Anthony Schultz, Rough Riders Hall of Famer and NFL veteran. We'll be right back in a moment here on Game Plus TV, streaming live.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB. Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are live at Western Dodge in Moose Jaw, as we've been all day, and we'll be here at various times throughout the summer. Very much looking forward to that. Thank you, Devin Ripley and the gang down here at Western Dodge, for welcoming us so well. Okay, pleased to welcome in the CFL on TSN's Jim Barker, a guy who, I guess, you would have had to deal with Scott Schultz a lot over your time, Jim, as an offensive guy in the CFL. He's still alive, Coach.
Yeah, he is, and he's still telling stories, and they're great stories. But I do have to step in defense of Toronto. He said he had his story about in the middle 2000s having, less than or 7,000 people in the stadium. Well, from 2004 to 2010, they outdrew the Riders every year. Their lowest crowd was 26,500. They had three crowds during that time, 2004 to 2009, over 30,000 against the Riders. So the people in Toronto, we always get dogged by people, and I was one of those people in Calgary and people in Saskatchewan about, they don't care about the team because they got the Blue Jays. Well, if you're going to make a joke about it, that's great, but be somewhat close to the facts. And to say there was 7,000 so you could hear birds going by, inside of a dome. Again, I get the humor, but we talk about wanting to build our league up, and the more we talk bad about Toronto and their fan base, how does that help the league? And I'm a believer in the Toronto fan base, and like it, don't like it. I believe that there's a strong base here. Again, I came into the league in Regina, and I came in right after the telethons, which was probably pre-Scott Schultz. So everybody's gone through problems. Toronto went through problems with some ownership things with Sherwood Schwartz right at 2000 when he was still in the NFL. And their attendance went down a bit. Never down to like the levels that we did in Calgary, but they went down as low as 15,000, I think, one year. But again, I was listening to it, and again, you love these stories, but so often I have to go back and check and say, that can't be true. Because I remember the Rogers Center was always, it looked empty, but there was always 25 to 30, 35,000, depending on the game.
Well,
so
there's a little bit of...
I had to get that off my chest.
Hey, that's what this show's for. And there's a little bit of the older we get, the better we were. And Google has made a lot of stories not as entertaining as they were because people can fact check now and the internet. So, hey, you obviously don't know Scott that well. He's a big BSer, right? Can we all agree on that? Scott Schultz is a big BSer. That's what's made him what he is. We do have questions have come. I guess while we're on the Argos vein, people have been asking me, I've asked people, what's your biggest surprise this year? And I say it's the Argos at 1-4. I think you saw this coming, but I did not.
That's because everybody looks at, and again, this is not a slam. It is a slam on Nick Arbuckle. They look at him as a starting quarterback because he won the Grey Cup MVP, but he's a backup quarterback. So the Argos have played with a backup quarterback since day one. So to say they're 1-5 or whatever they are, 1-4 isn't a shock to me. And again, I felt like their team they got decimated on defense. Their coaching staff got turned over. They've just gone through a lot of problems. Vince Magri left. They did not replace him. So there's a lot of issues going on there. Again, I don't know what they are, but on the field it's showing. But the bottom line comes down to they're playing with a backup quarterback that we often think of. He won the Grey Cup MVP. That we look at him like a starter. He isn't a starter. And that's what I think people have to understand. And again, so have they been a surprise? I don't know. It hasn't shocked me. Ottawa shocked me how bad they are. That's been more shocking to me. I thought they would be better, but they did nothing to address their offensive line, and they're just it's killing them. And then they've got some injuries and the most penalized team in the world. And here's a great thing, Rod. In the games last week, that BC game, one of the great finishes ever, but they had a play where BC, with 3.5 seconds left, threw a pass, got down, and kicked a field goal. So we, coaches, you get back and you say, okay, we got to have a 3.5 second play. We have to have a play that we know if we snap it by 3.5 seconds, we can get the ball down the field 10 yards, get down, and have time to kick a field goal. Because it took about right around 2.9. Like, you have that play at the end of a game where you're trying to, how many seconds can you eat up at the end of the game by dropping back, throwing it as high as you can? And it's a 6-second play. I wouldn't want to do it with 7 seconds. That would just be, it always comes out to 6.2 to 6.8. Maybe sometimes it goes, you don't want to go to 7. So if you have 6 seconds left, you can run that play. Well, the BC Lions unveiled for the first time in my career, and I've been in this thing my entire life, and I'm pushing closer to 70 every day. I'd never seen a 3.5 second play. And for the first time ever, I thought BC, I was shocked when they didn't line up and try the real long field goal. And again, it would have been a real stretch. And that they had an actual play called, knew how long it would take. And sure enough, that kid was down, giving himself up, and there was 0.3 seconds left. It was that wasn't a gift. That was a planned play, and kudos to Buck Pierce for having. I'm sure they call it their 3.5 second play. Well, the very next day, Ottawa has the exact same situation, but instead of throwing the 3.5, I said, "Well, we might see the 3.5 second play. They might have put it in." You can talk about things like that in a meeting. Hey, if we get to this situation, here's what we're going to do. We're going to call this play, and we're going to get the ball to you, and you get down because we got only 3.5 seconds left. Well, they had almost the exact same thing happen, and of course, they threw a pass and to Daniel Adeboboye. He tried to break tackles, and they ended the half on the 20-yard line and couldn't kick a field goal. So I thought it was really interesting that Ottawa couldn't carry over what they'd learned the day before by watching that game into the game that they played against Edmonton. And, it's the way it goes.
I'm going to ask this question because it's come up multiple times. I'm a little surprised it is a question, but John Ohm in Winnipeg says, "Hey, Coach Barker, how long is the leash in Ottawa with Bobby Dice?" And if I can go first, I've heard it a few times. I'm like, he just signed an extension, but I'll ask it because they're asking it.
Well, they got Hamilton back-to-back, and Hamilton may be playing as well as anybody right now. So they got Hamilton back-to-back, and then they get Calgary coming in, and then they have Toronto, and Chad Kelly will be back by then, or should be. That's 4 weeks away. If they lose those 4 games, you would think somebody has to go, but you're exactly right. Sean Burke gave Bob Dice an extension, so he's got an extension, and he just recently signed. Sean Burke did not get an extension. But if you're going to fire a GM, and I'm not saying they should fire Sean, I'm saying that if you're going to fire somebody to try to light your fan base up, which is what teams in professional sports do, it's more cost effective to fire the guy whose contract's running out than it is to fire the guy who you just re-signed to a new contract. But again, I don't know that you're going to gain anything at this time of the year firing a GM. I just don't know that that's going to happen. I agree with you that there's something's going to happen. It'd be tough to say we just gave him an extension and now we're firing him. But would not be unprecedented. Trust me.
Yeah, well, you've been in these meetings far more than I have and with teams, but I also have seen it where the president comes in or owner, if that's the thing, and says somebody needs to be fired by the end of the day and walks out. Mm-hmm. You decide who it is, so something may be coming out of Ottawa, but I do not think it'll be Bob Dice.
They've already fired offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, special teams coordinators, and they got Rick Campbell sitting there. I mean, when you put all those things together, it makes you say, you know what? Maybe they just eat it and go ahead and make that move. I don't know. All I know is the firing coordinators, I don't think is something that they can go back to because they've done it once already. Firing. Rick Campbell is the one thing that's there that you say, wow, that's just a natural, could happen easily. He's a guy who's taken us before. So we'll see.
Yeah.
They gotta win.
Well, again, this is one of the many beautiful things about this show is the interactive nature. So Arlen Bruce is watching. Arlen Bruce III. And he says, great information, Mr. Barker. Is it possible to recommend a top agent for my son, Arlen Bruce IV, to get him into the CFL? Thanks, Coach. Lots of respect for your knowledge. You are aware of the situation, Jim. Do we ever see Arlen Bruce IV in the CFL?
Yeah. Again, I don't know enough about the whole situation. Arlen, I would say, needs to contact me. He can contact me through your show, and I'll reach out to him. I'm not going to talk about his son or the futures and things in this setting. But I appreciate the fact that he trusts me enough that I deal with these agents all the time, and based on a lot of different things and a lot of different issues and a lot of good positives, negatives. Your selection of an agent is vital. It's absolutely vital. And again, I just need Arlen to talk to me off the Rod Pedersen
Well,
show.
I just
the
think,
Rod Pedersen show is a great vehicle,
Arlen Bruce,
but not for negotiating agents.
Okay, well, that's what we've learned today. But Arlen Bruce IV would be great for the CFL because we want great players, and he is that. And for those that don't know, he was banned from NCAA for betting in Iowa. But I'd hate to think that something you did in college would screw you for the rest of your life. But that's what we live in. Listen, about the games, voted Canada's game of the week is Calgary at Saskatchewan tonight by a mile by our viewers. Canada's game of the week, Stamps Riders tonight. I would think Sundays is close. Should have been got more votes, BC, Edmonton. But for tonight's game, what do you see happening?
I see Calgary is, I think, playing. How that Ottawa game happened is tough to know, because I thought they're playing on offense much better. They're close to getting Malik Henry back, not this week, but they're close to getting him back. I'm going to pick Saskatchewan just because, although I'm worried about the left tackle, Daniel Johnson. They had a kid step in there, Peyton Collins, who I thought did a fantastic job at left tackle. And, they had lost Trevon Tate the week before. He's on 6th game. He was doing a great job at left guard. I thought it was going to be too much. This week, he's blocking Flo Rimolade. Now, you look at the Edmonton Elks defensive front, and basically every single one of those guys was great for the Toronto Argonauts. You want to know why? Because Flo Rimolade was one of them. And when you have that one player who can make everybody else great, you got something special. That's what Flo Rimolade is. That defensive line in Calgary, there's nothing special. Coatney and that, but they have Flo, and Flo makes every one of them better. So Daniel Johnson is going to have his hands full with Flo coming off the edge, and I'm worried about that for the Riders. But with that being said, we have to remember there's 12 new players on that Calgary defense. Are they playing above their head now? Maybe, and that's maybe a good thing. Amongst those 12 are guys like Flo, Derek Moncrief, guys that are veterans in this league that you can count on to, they're going to know how to prepare and take the young guys around them. So I give them a lot of credit. Bob Slowick with that defense has done a spectacular job. But I'm going to pick Saskatchewan based on the strength of their defense. They lose to Von Campbell, which, again, I think that's a loss because he's a Canadian and because he's an outstanding corner. I mean, he's starting to understand the angles of playing in the Canadian game. So I'm going to pick them because of that defense against Vernon Adams. I think they'll be quick enough on the edges with Shane Ray and Baldonado that they'll be able to keep him somewhat contained. And again, this is a kind of game that's tough for Vernon Adams. I think he's gonna have to play as well as he's played all year. I think Trevor's going to be Trevor. He's going to not make the huge mistakes. He's going to throw completions. He's going to get his guys involved. And if they can give him enough time and they can get Ouellette and Carey going, Carey's going to be on the roster because Bertrand is hurt. So, if they can get Kadeem going, they have I think they have a real chance to control the game. But that left tackle thing, that's got me worried.
And it should. Coach Matt DeBuck is watching in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He says, Swami and Jimmy the Greek. He calls me Swami for some reason. I'm pretty sure you're the guy he's calling Jimmy. We all know who Jimmy the Greek is. And so on picks, I got the Riders to win tonight too. I would not be shocked to have Edmonton to see them beat BC. All the pundits and everybody, the odds makers, have the Lions winning. They are the better team, but Edmonton's got some in common, Jim. That was his game of the week.
Yeah, and again, I'm on Edmonton. They're playing it in Edmonton. Nathan Rourke, that was an incredible win they got against Montreal. But you have to remember, they were playing Montreal's backup quarterback. Their starting quarterback was sitting on the sidelines. So you take that win, you say, yeah, they won. They won the last second. They pulled it out with, that 3.5 play that it's going to go down in my head forever. That to get in field goal range, kick the winning field. That's a great win. Huge win on the road in Montreal. But you beat their backup quarterback. I just think Edmonton is getting better and getting better. Are they at that point yet? I don't know, how healthy is Nathan Rourke? He went back to being limited in practice. Is he going to be 100%? I think that's a really interesting game. If I was betting it, I think Edmonton's getting a couple points at home. I would probably, again, because I have to take Nathan Rourke over Trey Ford. I think Trey is learning his way. He had a perfect quarterback percentage last week, 17 of 19, no interceptions, 2 touchdowns, but he only ran the ball twice. Now that's a good thing. He needs to run the ball more, and still try to maintain that type of throwing and that kind of thing. And I think they're getting to know each other. I've seen Edmonton get better every week. I haven't seen BC get better every week. I've seen BC be up and down and still not physical as I like them. I would take Edmonton and take the points at home.
Gotcha.
And that's
hey, we only got a minute. I got it. 90 seconds even. So we might end up having to cut you off. But a great question came in. Will there or should there be a salary cap in college football? Your thoughts in a minute if you can.
Well, yeah, I think there should be a salary cap in college football because it's going to happen. Because what's going to end up happening is those with the most money are going to be in the playoffs every year. I do believe they will put a cap on it because they can't control themselves. It's like the CFL. We had no cap in 2006. Owners couldn't control themselves. Same thing with coaches. I think the coaches cap is the dumbest thing ever that they have in the CFL. Again, but because they can't control themselves. These universities, too much money at stake. They can't control themselves. If it costs them an extra $2 million to get a quarterback or a tackle they want, they're going to go pay it. That is just a fact. So you put a cap on them. Again, it makes tracking it tougher. And what can you get that doesn't count on the cap? And what is a kid in? It's going to be a mess. The NCAA is in for a mess. But I do believe they do need a salary cap.
Wonderful. Hey, perfect ending, perfect timing, and a wonderful clip from Jim Barker. Folks, we'll be right back after this. More from Western Dodge.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult, because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now. Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors. There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Western Dodge in Moose Jaw. We're so excited to be here for the summer. We're excited to be here today. Don't just shop anywhere. Shop smart at Western Dodge, proudly serving Moose Jaw and beyond. Home of the Warriors, home of the Miller Express, and home for the RP show in the summertime, Moose Jaw. And we're live on the Game Plus Television Network. And before I delve into a sports update here, I want to say I hope the CFL fans have really enjoyed today's program because it has been almost 100% CFL talk. And why wouldn't we be? We're in the dog days of summer. That's a good thing. And a home game tonight, Saskatchewan Roughriders, Calgary Stampeders. But I think we've done a good enough job of talking about the other games too. And I enjoy, you see the people walking around the dealership here. For those that are peering into this province from across Canada and the USA, this is Alabama. Now, I grew up here, and I didn't realize it until I left, and I now have the opportunity to come back in the summers, that the football team is the thing. You see everybody wearing their team gear around here. It's all over the city. It's all over the province. The Rough Riders are 4-0. It's a really big, special thing. So I hope you enjoyed this show. We don't do it all the time this way, but I think it's gone real well. And, you know, we did it out in Burlington a few weeks ago with Tony Gabriel joining us and Leo Ezrins. It's a special thing. 902-518-3033 is the number to reach us here on the text line. And it's me and you till the rest of the top of the hour. And it's going to go fast. So get your questions in with whatever you would like to talk about. It doesn't necessarily have to be CFL or even football related. Jeff, the Stamps fan. Thank you, Jeff. He says, it's great. Thanks, Rod. You know, it kind of reminds me of all those shows that we did out there in Calgary at the Grey Eagle, at Ace Airport Casino, Century Downs, the ones that you didn't come see, Jeff. There's my once a week reminder of that you didn't come see us. We had all the Stampeders people coming out there, and it was great. And now we're doing it here. Shy writes in, he says, the Riders rock. Well, we'll find out tonight, won't we? Sports update, Max Scherzer gets the start tonight as the Toronto Blue Jays visit the Athletics in Sacramento, California. The Jays had their 10-game win streak snapped in a series finale against the White Sox on Wednesday after taking the first two. Luis Severino starts for the A's. Shohei Ohtani of the LA Dodgers tops Major League Baseball's jersey sales at the All-Star break with the Yankee slugger Aaron Judge in second. Toronto's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the highest-ranked Blue Jay at number 14. Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts of the Dodgers and Francisco Lindor of the New York Mets round out the top five. While I have you, because it's a Football Friday and we've been talking about it, this is the thing that I largely now just bite my lip on and don't say anything, but we say Shohei Ohtani tops the list of jersey sales. That's a new thing. Aaron Judge, number 2, Vladdy, number 3. I bring that up because I saw this on Facebook the other day on our page. The fans were debating. Well, this is how it started. 2 minutes already? It's going fast. This is how it started. I put a post up about attendance for tonight's game. Because if you ever want, it's a slow day, you want to get anybody going, talk about attendance at Rider games and how poor it is compared to what it should be. And some guy writes in and says, yo, aren't we number 3 in merchandise sales to the Blue Jays and Expos? Canadians and Leafs, aren't we number 3? I'm like, yeah. 20 years ago, the Riders number 5 in jersey sales in the CFL, let alone number 3 behind the Habs and the Leafs. Yo, 2005 called, buddy, and they want their stats back. So that's the problem that I have is certain teams, and the Riders being one, have been coasting on that for a real long time. Those stats aren't accurate anymore, but people are still living off of them. The changes you need to keep up, and winning helps. Championships. Toronto Maple Leafs swung a deal last night. Sending rugged forward Ryan Reeves to the San Jose Sharks for defenseman Henry Thrun. The 24-year-old Thrun posted 2 goals and 10 assists in 60 games with the Sharks last season. Reeves, who signed with July of 2023, had 2 assists in 35 games last night. Sports updates brought to you by Seat Giant. Stop paying U.S. dollars for games and concerts. Canadian-owned and operated with Canadians in mind. Super Bowl, college football, Taylor Swift, Justin Timberlake. We've got it all. Use the promo code RPShow for 15% off now. Check us out at SeatGiant.ca. Overtime's up next. Whatever you would like to get to, 902-518-3033 or the streaming chat, and we'll be back for one final segment from Western Dodge right after this on Game Plus and, of course, streaming live.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Okay, everybody, we're back here at Western Dodge in Moose Jaw for overtime, as you can see on the screen. Now, as we're taking the show out on the road a little bit, I'm excited, very excited for upcoming shows. This one today went well. Thank you, Corey and the crew with Skycron, and we will be in Calgary, Alberta at the Sheridan Airport Cavalier Hotel on July 29th for the Western Canadian Pro Hockey Scouting Foundation induction. My dad's going into the Hall of Fame there, all the hockey guys that come on our show that day. Next day, we'll be at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary, so you'll really get a good look at it. And Randy and Michelle will be on the show from Overtime, and hopefully we can get some hockey folk out for that. Coach DeBuck writes in from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, CFL alumni. He says, we need the Rod Tour on Fridays in every city. The teams need to pony up for Rod and pay. Maybe Luke Wilson can be his sidekick. Well, wouldn't that be nice, Coach? But I'm pretty happy coming down here to Western Dodge to do it on Fridays. Everybody's very cavalier with my time and everybody else's money. James Warnicki writes in. He says, has anyone else seen the relay races at the Stampede? Never seen it till this year, and it's kind of cool to watch. I don't even know what that is. Tony from Cochrane, Alberta. Tony, by the way, if you can somehow come down to Overtime Hockey Lanes, I'd like to meet you. If you can, that's July 30th. I'm just throwing it out there. I just had a nice guy come down here, Scott from Moose Jaw. He texts in quite regularly. He just wanted to come down and say hi. He's like, I watch the show every day, and I wanted to come say hi. That was nice of him. Jeff in Yorkton writes in. He says, great show, Rod. Will we see you at the game tonight? No, you're not going to see me at the game tonight. Here's the thing. After I got fired in 2019, I still had season tickets. So I was going to the games right up until Labor Day. And then I just kind of looked around, and I'm like, what am I doing here? And having not been back since. Let me put it to you plainly. I was fired. So have you ever been fired? Do you go hang around the place that you were fired at? Do you go there and just hang around? Because that's what it would be like. I'm not comfortable there. I don't understand what you don't get about that. I'm not comfortable there. Period. So we'll be ordering a pizza tonight, watching the game on the big screen. Doesn't mean I can't root for a good game and watch all the CFL games. I'm not comfortable there. It's like the guy that graduates high school but still goes back to the high school parties. The time's done. It's over. No hard feelings, but I just don't go back. I know I get asked are you going to the games? No. B. Mans writes in. I think he's in Winnipeg. He says, great show. Go Riders. A lot of trash talking going on here now, which is try and keep it civil, please. You know, there was a guy in Edmonton. Well, Rich at Edmonton, he's a regular viewer on here. He was upset that I wasn't monitoring, or somebody wasn't monitoring the YouTube comments. I'm like, for real? We're on television every day across Canada and the USA, and these viewers need to be babysat because they're fighting with each other? No. Not happening. If you don't like it, don't read the comments. Like, literally. Ron in Calgary writes in and says, oh, my God. I'm trying, folks. I'm trying. From the 403, he's a Rider fan. He writes in and he says, the Riders better be 80% sold out or we are really in trouble. I'm ready for the weekend. I'm ready for the weekend. I don't understand. Can we talk about the game? Like, the poll question today for our friends at EMJ Marketing is this. By the way, from impactful speakers to strategic marketing, EMJ Marketing is your complete solution, emjmarketing.com. Who's going to throw more passing yards tonight, Vernon Adams or Trevor Harris? I haven't looked up what the result is, but Carlos in Indianapolis had a pretty good point. He goes, I'm voting for Vernon Adams because I think they're going to be behind, and he's going to throw for more yards. That's why I'm not the best betting guy. I don't bet. You want to talk about the best guy that should be a betting analyst or a fantasy football expert is Torrey Gurley. We haven't had Torrey on for a while, former Green Bay Packer and Cleveland Browns wide receiver, very close friend of mine. That's his thing. Played in the league, played in the CFL too. He can nail all this stuff, but I just don't bet. I did see somebody promoting CFL fantasy the other day, and I'm like, well, that looks kind of fun, but I just kind of stay out of it. I'm okay with watching the games. That's enough excitement for me. Thank you, B-Mans writes in. He says, congrats to your family on your dad's induction. Thank you very much. We're very excited about that. And, big football show today. Hope people enjoy that big CFL show. And then it'll be hockey shows July 29th and 30th. I'm just very blessed and grateful to be able to weave back and forth and have good friends in both sports because I never, ever planned to be a football guy. Never did. Was not on the radar. And I can also tell you being a baseball guy was not on the radar either. And that's been going absolutely swimmingly well. So as they say, people plan and God laughs. Just try and do your best every day and be good to people. You never know what's going to come back around. Anthony writes in from the Energy City. He says, have a great weekend, Rod. See you at the ball game on July 27th. I don't even know who we're playing, but I know I'll be there. One day at a time. Just getting through this show. Bill Edwards says, go, Riders, go. Hope we got your question answered about Chad Kelly earlier, Bill. I think that we did. Just want to say a big thank you, by the way, to Western Dodge for supporting us here on the RP Show this summer. It's been wonderful working with them. John says, greatest sports talk show is the RP Show. Have a great weekend. Be good to each other, most importantly, be good to yourself. I can guarantee you now I'm the whore and the pimp. That's where the money is.
How about that?